The lawyer's letter came on a rainy Thursday afternoon while I was baking cookies for the church sale. $23 million. I read those words over and over until the paper got wet from my shaking hands. My rich Aunt Margaret, who I'd only met twice in my whole life, had left everything to me. She died last month at 98, and nobody told me about her funeral. Now I understood why. Aunt Margaret was famous for making smart choices with money. She owned buildings and stores in 3 different cities. Everyone in our family knew she was rich, but she lived in a small house and drove an old car. She sent me birthday cards every year with $20 inside, even when I turned 60. The last time I saw her was at a family party 10 years ago. She left early, saying something about needing to check on her investments. Now all that money was mine. Called the lawyer right away. My hands were still shaking. A woman answered and said her name was Linda Martinez. She told me that Aunt Margaret had been very clear about who should get her money. But before I could sign any papers, someone named Rachel Kim needed to talk to me about something important. Something private. What could be so private? The lawyer lady said I shouldn't tell anyone about the money yet. Not even family. But how could I keep this secret from my son? I had to tell Marcus. He's my only child. We used to be so close when he was little. But over the last 10 years things changed. He got a big job at a company called Sterling Industries. He stopped calling me every week. Our talks got shorter and shorter. 3 months ago he asked me to lend him $10,000. He said it was just for a little while. I took the money out of my savings account, even though it hurt. He never mentioned it again. But this was different. $23 million could fix everything between us. I tried calling Marcus 6 times that day. Every call went straight to his voicemail. Marcus, it's your mom. Have amazing news. Please call me back soon. I left the same message over and over. By evening I couldn't wait anymore. I decided to drive to his office in the city. The lawyer had told me not to tell anyone. But Marcus wasn't just anyone. He was my son. Maybe the money would bring us close again. Maybe he would have time for his old mom once more. The storm got worse as I drove on the highway. Rain pounded on my car windows so hard I could barely see. I turned my wipers up as high as they could go. I leaned forward in my seat trying to see the road. My mind was full of thoughts about how happy Marcus would be. I didn't see the big white truck until it was right behind me. The lights were so bright in my mirror. Too bright. Way too close. I whispered for the truck to back away. I tapped my brakes gently to warn the driver. But instead of slowing down, the truck came closer. It bumped my car from behind. Not hard, but enough to make me scared. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. Then it happened again. Harder bump. My car started sliding on the wet road. The truck pulled up beside me. I could see it was white with no writing on the side. The driver turned the wheel and pushed my car toward the edge of the road. Metal scraped against metal. My window broke into 1,000 pieces. The world started spinning. My car flipped over the barrier and rolled down the hill. Pain was everywhere. Then everything went dark. I could hear sirens far away, but they sounded like they were in a dream. The next thing I remember clearly was a bright white ceiling. Machines were beeping. A doctor with kind eyes looked down at me. She said words like broken bones, surgery, and very lucky. But I didn't feel lucky. I floated in and out of sleep for days. Every time I woke up, I asked the same question. Has anyone called my son? Has Marcus come to see me? The nurses looked sad when they shook their heads. On day 3, a nice nurse with red hair helped me hold the phone. My fingers were wrapped in bandages. My arms were covered in purple and yellow bruises. She dialed Marcus's number for me. The phone rang and rang. Marcus answered in his business voice. Marcus Jackson speaking. Mom, it's me, I whispered. My throat hurt so much from the breathing tube they'd put down it. I'm in the hospital. I was in a bad accident. There was silence for a few seconds. Mom, I'm about to walk into a big meeting with my bosses. Can we talk about this later? But Marcus, I've been here for 3 days. It was really bad. Thought you should know. Another pause. I could hear papers moving around on his desk. Look, Mom, I don't have time or money for drama right now. Things are really tight at work, and I'm trying to get a promotion. I'll try to visit when I can. Then he hung up. Just like that. The nurse put the phone back on the table. She squeezed my shoulder softly. Her eyes were full of pity. I closed my eyes and tried not to cry. $23 million. And my son couldn't take 30 minutes to visit his hurt mother. I closed my eyes and let the medicine pull me back to sleep. In my foggy dreams, I kept seeing that white truck. The way it hit me on purpose. Once, twice, 3 times. Maybe it wasn't an accident at all. Maybe someone knew about Aunt Margaret's money. Maybe they wanted to hurt me. But that was crazy thinking. Wasn't it? 5 days in a hospital bed teaches you that nobody really sees you. I became just another patient. The quiet old lady in room 318 who never pushed her call button much. Dr. Chen came to check on me twice every day. She looked worried about more than just my broken bones. We had worked together at the same college for 30 years. She taught science. I taught English. Now she was watching over my healing like a mother hen. The police report says you had a single car accident, Maria said one morning. She sat beside my bed with her tablet. Wet roads. Maybe you slid on the water. It wasn't an accident, I whispered. I looked around to make sure no nurses could hear us. Someone hit my car on purpose. Maria's face stayed calm, but her eyes got sharp. Are you certain, Rose? A white truck. 3 times. On purpose. Have you told the police? I shook my head a tiny bit. Hurt to move. They'll think I'm confused or crazy. An old woman with a head injury. Nobody would believe me. Rose, you need to report this. Not yet, I interrupted. I need to understand why first. Then I'll talk to the police. Maria held my hand carefully, avoiding my fore. Marcus still hasn't come to visit, has he? The question hurt more than my broken ribs. Well, I've called him 12 times now. Maria's face got hard. She'd never really liked Marcus, but she'd always been polite for my sake. Now even that politeness was gone. The inheritance, she said quietly. Could your accident be connected to Aunt Margaret's money? That same question had been spinning in my head during the long, painful nights. I don't know. The lawyer said someone named Rachel Kim needed to talk to me about something private before I signed the papers. Rachel Kim. Maria frowned. Why does that name sound familiar? Before she could think more about it, loud voices came from the hallway. A man's voice, strong and demanding, talked over the nurses' protests. I'm her son. I don't care what your rules say about visiting hours. Marcus. Maria stood up fast. She moved between my bed and the door like she was protecting me. The doctor ready to defend her patient. The friend shielding the wounded. My son appeared in the doorway. He wore an expensive suit that I knew cost more than my monthly bills. His dark hair was perfect. For a second, I saw the little boy who used to bring me flowers from the garden. But time and ambition had changed his face into a stranger's. Mother, he said, looking at my injuries like he was reading a grocery list. You look better than I expected from what you described. I almost died, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. A tiny flicker of something crossed his face. Maybe guilt. Maybe annoyance. I've been incredibly busy with a major project. The timing of your situation was unfortunate. Maria made a small sound of disbelief. Marcus glanced at her like he'd just noticed she was there. Dr. Chen. Still hovering around, I see. Still showing up, she replied in an even voice. The tension between them got thick. Then a woman stepped into the room behind Marcus. She was thin and elegant, with smart eyes that looked at everything quickly. She wore a pretty cream dress that whispered money. Her dark hair was pulled back smooth and shiny. You must be Marcus's mother, she said. She stepped forward with a warm smile. I'm Rachel, his wife. I've been so excited to meet you. I just wish it wasn't like this. Rachel. The name hit me like lightning. Rachel Kim. The lawyer's assistant. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We got married 3 months ago. Small wedding on an island. Just us. Rachel moved closer to my bed with her warm smile. Marcus said traveling would be too hard for you. But I told him we had to visit as soon as we got back. Another lie exposed. Marcus had never told me about any wedding. He'd never invited me. As Rachel got close to my bed, her eyes met mine for the first time. Really met them. Her warm smile froze on her face. The blood drained away until she looked like she might faint. Her hand reaching toward mine started shaking. Are you okay? Yes. She stared at me with complete shock. Her calm face completely shattered. She stammered, then stopped. Sorry. You just look exactly like someone I knew once. Marcus frowned. He looked back and forth between us with confused irritation. Rachel, what's going on? She didn't seem to hear him. Her eyes were locked on my face with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. You're Rose Bennett, she whispered. Margaret Bennett's niece. The room went silent. Marcus's face became hard and unreadable. How do you know about Aunt Margaret? Asked carefully. Rachel opened her mouth, then closed it. Something crossed her face. Like she was deciding something important. Then she pulled herself together with visible effort. Your son mentioned her, she said smoothly. But her voice still had a little shake in it. I'm sorry for your loss. Were you too close? Before I could answer, Marcus interrupted. Mother, we need to talk about any paperwork you might have gotten recently. For tax reasons. Maria stepped forward. Rose needs rest, not money discussions. It's important, Marcus insisted. He looked around the room like he was searching for something. Has anyone sent you documents? Given you anything to sign? The heart monitor showed my pulse getting faster. I thought about the lawyer's warning. Tell no one. Nothing, I lied. I watched my son's face carefully. Just hospital forms. Rachel's eyes never left mine. A silent message I couldn't understand passed between us. We should go, she said suddenly. She took Marcus's arm. Your mother needs rest. We'll come back tomorrow. As they turned to leave, Rachel looked back at me. Her face was now deliberately blank. It was good to meet you, Mrs. Bennett. The door closed behind them. Only the beeping machines and Maria's concerned face remained. Rose, she said quietly. I think you're in real danger. After they left, Maria insisted on staying overnight in the chair beside my bed. Just to be safe, she said. But we both understood it was more than that. Something had shifted in my hospital room. Something about Rachel's shocked face when she saw me. Something about Marcus's urgent questions about documents. A quiet threat had entered my safe space. Sleep came in broken pieces. Nurses checked my vital signs. Pain medicine wore off. In those twilight moments between awake and asleep, Aunt Margaret's face kept appearing in my mind. Not as the old woman I'd last seen, but as she looked in my childhood. Sharp-eyed and serious. Always question what seems too easy, Rose, she used to tell me. Especially kindness from people who benefit from your problems. Morning brought a young police officer to my room. Officer Jenkins looked barely old enough to drive. But his questions were exact and careful. You said another vehicle pushed you off the road on purpose, he said. His notebook was open on his knee. Can you describe it again? White truck. Dark windows. I couldn't see the license plate from where I was. And you're certain the contact was deliberate? I looked directly at him. 3 separate times they hit my vehicle. That's not an accident. He nodded and wrote something down. Any reason someone might want to harm you, Mrs. Bennett? The question hung in the air. 23 million reasons flashed through my mind. But something, maybe instinct, stopped me from mentioning the inheritance. Instead, I shook my head. Not that I know of. We'll investigate, he said. He closed his notebook. Highway Patrol is checking cameras in that area. But I should warn you, that particular part of the highway doesn't have many cameras. How convenient, I thought. But I kept my face neutral. Thank you, officer. After he left, a hospital volunteer brought in a small bunch of yellow daisies. The card was from Rachel. Hoping you feel better soon. Looking forward to knowing you better. The handwriting was elegant and controlled. No sign of the shock that had taken over her face yesterday. Maria came back mid-morning. She brought my laptop and phone charger from my house. Thought you might need these, she explained. She set them up on my bed table. Any word from Marcus? Not directly. I pointed to the flowers. His wife sent those. Maria looked at the card. Her expression became thoughtful. Rachel Kim Jackson. I knew that name sounded familiar. She pulled out her tablet and typed quickly. Here. Kim Legal Associates. They handle corporate whistleblower cases and financial fraud. Rachel Kim is their star lawyer. The tablet showed a professional website with Rachel's photograph. Confident and poised. Nothing like the woman who had nearly collapsed at my bedside. A corporate fraud lawyer married to a Sterling Industries executive, I said quietly. That's an interesting combination. Almost contradictory, Maria agreed. Like a park ranger marrying a poacher. While Maria went to talk to my doctor, I opened my laptop. The email from Martinez Legal sat in my inbox, unopened. I clicked it nervously. The inheritance details were simple and clear. $23 million in various investments, property in 3 states, and a sealed package to be delivered by hand. The document just needed my electronic signature to start the transfer. My cursor sat over the signature line. I hesitated. Aunt Margaret's childhood warning echoed in my head. Question what seems too easy. Instead of signing, I opened a search window. I typed Margaret Bennett Investment Fraud Sterling Industries. The results made my blood turn cold. Financial news sites from the past year talked about Aunt Margaret's growing concern with what she called systematic corruption at Sterling Industries. She had publicly said they were running a massive scheme that stole from investors. Billions of dollars. The company said she was a bitter former partner whose mind was going bad. The most recent article, from just days before her death, said that Margaret claimed to have solid proof. Proof that would destroy Sterling's house of cards. Proof she apparently meant to give to me. I closed the laptop as Maria came back. I didn't want her to see my shaking hands or the tears in my eyes. They're releasing you tomorrow, she announced. You'll stay with me, obviously. I need to go to my own home, I said firmly. My own space. Rose, you can barely walk. And after what happened? I'll hire help, I interrupted her gently but firmly. You've done enough. She saw the stubborn look on my face. The same expression I'd worn when fighting for my teaching position. When raising Marcus alone after his father died. When refusing extra surgery that doctors said would only help a little bit. Maria sighed. At least let me arrange security cameras. Front and back doors, I agreed. Relief mixed with growing dread. My quiet life teaching literature had somehow become something dangerous. Something with stakes I was only beginning to understand. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Don't sign anything. Don't trust anyone asking about documents. I'll contact you privately when you're home. Rachel Kim. My daughter-in-law. The lawyer connected to Aunt Margaret. The woman married to my son. I deleted the message right away. Then I looked up to find Maria watching me closely. What aren't you telling me? She asked softly. Everything's fine, I lied. I knew it might be the last normal lie I ever told my oldest friend before the truly strange lies began. Because one thing had become crystal clear. Whatever had killed Aunt Margaret was now coming for me. And somehow my only son was caught in the middle of it. The trip from hospital to home left me gasping with pain. Even with the soft seats in Maria's nice car, every bump in the road sent shockwaves through my healing bones. My small house, once just home, now seemed different. Like both a safe place and a potential trap. The security company finished installing everything this morning, Maria said. She helped me up the porch steps with my walker. Cameras at all doors. Motion sensors. Direct line to police. It's too much, I protested weakly. Though secretly I was grateful. It's necessary, she said firmly. She unlocked my front door. The home helper arrives at 4. I checked her background myself. 20 years experience. Perfect references. Inside, everything looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Cookie sheets still on the counter. My rose bush drooping from no water. Half-finished cup of coffee, now moldy, on the side table. Yet something felt wrong. The air felt disturbed in a way I couldn't explain. "Someone's been in here," I whispered. Maria frowned. "That's impossible. I've had the only key. The locks weren't broken. Check my office." She disappeared down the hall while I lowered myself carefully onto the couch, fighting dizziness. When Maria came back, her face confirmed what I suspected. "Your desk drawers were searched carefully. Everything put back but not quite in the right order. Your filing cabinet looks untouched." I nodded, oddly relieved. The cabinet had 30 years of boring paperwork. Tax forms, medical records, Marcus's old report cards. Nothing valuable to anyone else. But my desk might have held Aunt Margaret's documents if I'd received them before the accident. After Maria reluctantly left for her hospital shift, promising to return that evening, I sat in stillness. I listened to my house settle around me. The grandfather clock in the hall, my father's treasure, marked time with steady precision, each tick like a heartbeat of my changed life. At exactly 2:17 in the afternoon, my prepaid phone buzzed. The cheap phone Maria had bought just in case, separate from my regular phone. The message had only an address and time. Lakewood Park, West Bench, 4:30. No signature needed. Rachel. The home helper, Mrs. Patterson, arrived at 4. She was a no-nonsense woman with gray hair and strong arms. She seemed surprised by my request. "You want to go to the park today?" "Just for some fresh air," I said. I put on a weak smile. "The doctor said short walks would help." "You'll come with me, of course." She looked doubtful but agreed. 20 minutes maximum. And we're taking the wheelchair. Lakewood Park was thankfully close. Just 3 blocks from my house. Mrs. Patterson pushed my wheelchair along tree-lined paths. She huffed slightly on the gentle hills. At the western edge, I spotted a lone figure on a bench facing the pond. "I'd like to rest here," I told Mrs. Patterson. I pointed at the bench. "Maybe you could get us some water. There's a vendor near the playground." Once she walked away reluctantly, Rachel moved quickly to my side. Her elegant look was replaced by ordinary clothes. Hoodie, sunglasses, hair hidden under a baseball cap. "We don't have much time," she said quietly. "They're watching your house." "Who's watching? And why are you meeting me like this? What's your real connection to Aunt Margaret?" Rachel's calm face cracked slightly. "I really am Marcus's wife. That part is true. But I'm also the lawyer Margaret Bennett hired to protect you and deliver certain documents. You married my son as part of your legal work." The absurdity almost made me laugh despite everything. "No," she said sharply. "I met Marcus at a charity event last year. Long before your aunt came to our firm. Meeting him was coincidence." "I don't believe in coincidences anymore." "Neither do I," Rachel admitted. She glanced toward the path where Mrs. Patterson would return. "The important thing is your accident wasn't random. Sterling's people think you already have the documents." "What documents? What's in them?" "Proof of systematic fraud at the highest levels of Sterling Industries. Your aunt spent years gathering it. False financial statements, hidden bank accounts, manipulated numbers. Everything needed to prove they've been running a sophisticated scheme worth billions." Felt suddenly weak. "And not from my injuries. And Marcus. Is he involved?" Pain flickered across Rachel's face. "That's complicated. I believe Victor Sterling has been grooming him. Involving him slowly in questionable deals. Marcus probably doesn't understand the full picture of what he's participating in." "You're defending him," I observed. "I'm trying to save him," she corrected. "And you?" "The documents are being delivered tomorrow. By a courier who worked with your aunt. Once you have them, I can help you bring everything to the Securities Commission." Mrs. Patterson appeared in the distance with bottled water. "What about you?" asked quickly. "Won't this expose your connection?" "Yes," Rachel said simply. "My career at the firm will be over. My marriage too, probably." "Then why?" "'Cause it's the right thing to do." She stood up. She adjusted her cap. And because I've come to care about Marcus. Despite everything, he deserves a chance to make this right. As she walked away, blending into a group of joggers, Mrs. Patterson returned. She frowned suspiciously. Who was that? Just another birdwatcher, I lied. I looked toward the pond where a heron stood perfectly still in the shallow water, patient and watchful, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sleep didn't come that night. Pain medicine or not. Mrs. Patterson snored softly from the guest room. Her presence was both comforting and limiting. I lay awake. My mind made lists of the impossible things from the past week. $23 million. Someone deliberately trying to hurt me. My son possibly involved in financial crimes. And his wife, a woman I'd never met until days ago, secretly working to protect me. Had my life always contained these seeds of trouble? Sleeping until Aunt Margaret's death? Or had I been so absorbed in my quiet teaching life that I'd failed to notice the rot surrounding my only child? Dawn brought thin, colorless rain that streaked my bedroom windows. Mrs. Patterson helped me wash and dress. Her efficiency was both comforting and somewhat cold. By 10 o'clock, I sat in my reading chair by the window, pretending to read Jane Austen, actually watching the street through rain-blurred glass. At exactly 11:17, a delivery van stopped in front of my house. The driver, young with a beard, wore a standard courier uniform. He walked up with a medium box. Mrs. Patterson answered the door. She signed for the delivery and brought the package to me. From Martinez Legal, she noted. She read the label before setting it beside me. My heart raced. Aunt Margaret's documents. Kept my face neutral. Thanked her. Then I suggested she make lunch. Once alone, I looked at the package without opening it. Heavier than I expected. Professionally sealed. What secrets did it hold that were worth killing for? I hid it under a blanket just as my phone rang. Marcus, Mother, I need to see you today. His voice had an unfamiliar edge. Fear disguised as urgency. I'm quite tired, Marcus. The doctor says minimal visitors. This is important. He lowered his voice. It's about Aunt Margaret. A chill ran through me despite my warm sweater. What about her? Not over the phone. I'll be there at 2. The line went dead before I could respond. I glanced at the hidden package, then at the clock. 2 hours to look at whatever explosive proof Aunt Margaret had collected before Marcus arrived. But first I needed privacy. When Mrs. Patterson brought my soup and medicine, I pretended to take the pills, then secretly removed them from my mouth after she left. I needed clarity, not fog. 30 minutes later I called out weakly. Mrs. Patterson, could you get my sweater from the bedroom closet? The blue one. I'm feeling cold. The moment she disappeared down the hall, I quickly moved the package into the hollow space inside my father's grandfather clock. I just sat back down when she returned with the sweater. Thank you, I said. Acted drowsy. I think I'll rest now. Those pills make me so sleepy. She nodded approvingly. I'll be in the kitchen. Call if you need anything. Closed my eyes. I listened to her footsteps fade away. Then I counted to 300 before carefully standing. The walk to the clock took painful effort without my walker. Each step sent bolts of pain through my healing ribs. Once there, I got the package. I made my slow way to the bathroom, the one room where privacy was guaranteed. Inside, I locked the door. I sat on the closed toilet lid. My hands trembled as I opened the package. It held a sealed envelope and a smaller personal envelope with my name in Aunt Margaret's handwriting. I opened the personal letter first. My dear Rose, if you're reading this, I am gone. And you face danger I hope to shield you from. Inside the sealed envelope is proof of criminal activity at Sterling Industries spanning 20 years. This information will destroy lives, including possibly your son's. For that I am deeply sorry. Marcus was deliberately recruited by Victor Sterling after I began my investigation. I believe Victor wanted him as both leverage and distraction. Your son may be involved in illegal activities, but I suspect he doesn't understand the true extent of the fraud. Trust Rachel Kim. She is one of the few lawyers with both the skill and integrity to handle this properly. The decision of how to proceed rests with you now. Your loving Aunt Margaret. I pressed the letter to my chest. My eyes burned with tears I wouldn't let fall. Aunt Margaret had known about Marcus's involvement, yet still trusted me with this moral puzzle. The sealed envelope felt impossibly heavy in my hands. Pandora's box wrapped in office paper. Before I could open it, someone knocked at the bathroom door. Miss Bennet, Mrs. Patterson called. Are you all right? You've been in there quite a while. Just a moment, I called back. I hurriedly put everything back in the outer package. When I came out, leaning heavily on the counter, Mrs. Patterson's concerned look shifted slightly. She noticed the package tucked awkwardly under my arm. Let me help you with that, she said. She reached for it. I held it tighter. No need. Just some old photos I want to show Marcus later. Something flickered in her eyes. Suspicion. Then her professional face came back. Your son called. He's running early. Should be here in 20 minutes. As she helped me back to my chair, my mind raced. Had I imagined her reaction? Was I becoming paranoid? Seeing plots where only normal concern existed. The grandfather clock chimed once. 90 minutes until Marcus's scheduled arrival. Yet he was already coming. I needed to hide the package again. Somewhere he wouldn't think to look. But first, I needed to know exactly what Aunt Margaret had found. And whether my son was just a pawn in Victor Sterling's game. Or something far worse. Mrs. Patterson stayed nearby. Her attention kept flicking to the package in my lap. I needed to look at the contents before Marcus arrived. But not with watchful eyes monitoring me. I'm feeling quite tired, I said. I faked a yawn as I shifted in my chair. I think I'd like to rest in my bedroom before Marcus comes. Course. She moved to help me stand. I'll check on you in 15 minutes. Once in my bedroom with the door firmly closed, I moved as fast as my broken body would allow. From my nightstand drawer, I took out a small letter opener. A gift from Maria on my 30th year of teaching. With careful precision, I opened the envelope. Careful not to tear anything that might show I'd looked inside. The package held USB drives, financial statements, and photographs, dozens of them. Victor Sterling meeting with various officials in places that looked deliberately secret. Several showed Marcus. He looked uncomfortable as he handed envelopes to serious-faced men in expensive suits. The timestamps showed progression. My son's involvement getting deeper over the past year. The financial documents were complicated. But even I could see the patterns of lies. Money moved between fake companies. Investor returns made up from new money instead of real profits. Balance sheets that couldn't possibly work. Most damning was a series of emails between Victor and Marcus. They talked about controlled releases and story management regarding Sterling's finances. In one, Victor praised Marcus for handling our friends at the oversight committee. He mentioned a special payment for his discretion. My son wasn't just involved. He was guilty. My hands shook as I gathered everything. I put it back exactly as I'd found it. From my jewelry box I took a small key. It opened the hidden space in my antique vanity. A space where I'd once kept love letters from Marcus's father. Then later, the scary test results I'd hidden from my teenage son. Now it would hold proof of his crimes. The compartment clicked open just as a car door slammed outside. I looked through the curtains. Not Marcus's sleek car. A black SUV sitting at the curb. The same type of vehicle that had run me off the road. My breath caught. Through dark windows I could see a driver and passenger, both watching my house. When my curtain moved, the passenger pointed right at my window. No time for careful movements. I shoved the package into the compartment, closed it. I just replaced the vanity's false bottom when Mrs. Patterson knocked. Your son is here, she said through the door. And he brought someone with him. Victor Sterling. Had to be. Tell them I'll be right out, I called. I fought to keep my voice steady. In the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face. I looked at my reflection. The bruising had faded to yellowish marks, but fear had carved new lines around my eyes. I looked exactly like what I was. A beaten woman in her 60s, far out of her depth in a dangerous game. But I'd faced scary people before. Teaching politics could be surprisingly mean, especially for a female department head in the 90s. I straightened my sweater, put on a touch of lipstick, took 3 deep breaths. When I entered the living room, Marcus stood near the fireplace. Tension showed in every line of his body. Next to him wasn't Victor, but a younger man, muscular, expressionless, with the alert stance of private security. Mother, Marcus said. His voice was artificially bright. You're looking better. Amazing what nearly dying does for appearance, I replied dryly. Who's your friend? Thomas Grant, Mrs. Bennet. The man didn't offer his hand. Mr. Sterling's head of security. I'm here to make sure everything goes smoothly. How thoughtful, I said. I lowered myself carefully into my chair. And what exactly are we making sure goes smoothly, Marcus? My son glanced at Grant. The man gave an almost invisible nod. We need to talk about Aunt Margaret, Marcus began. He paced nervously. She may have sent you some materials that could be misunderstood. Misunderstood. I repeated. Interesting word choice. The old woman had become confused, Grant said. Paranoid. Making wild claims against respected financial institutions. Including your employer, I said. Calvin stopped pacing. Mother, this is serious. If Margaret sent you documents, they could have private information that, taken wrong, might seem concerning. Concerning enough to run someone off the road. I asked quietly. Grant's face didn't change, but something cold flashed in his eyes. Marcus looked genuinely shocked. What are you talking about? Someone deliberately forced me off the highway. The day I learned about my inheritance. I looked at him steadily. Black SUV. Like the one parked outside my house right now. Marcus's face lost all color. He turned to Grant. You said it was an accident. Grant's jaw tightened barely noticeably. The police report confirmed wet road conditions, sir. Because that's what they were told, I said. No witnesses. No cameras in that area. Convenient, wouldn't you say? Mrs. Patterson appeared in the door. Everything all right, Miss Bennet? You seem upset. We're fine, I assured her. Though I noticed she kept her phone visible in her hand. Ready to call for help if needed. Marcus collapsed onto the sofa. He ran his hands through his hair. A gesture so familiar from his childhood that my heart ached despite everything. Mother, please. If Aunt Margaret sent you anything, just give it to me. For your own safety. My safety, I echoed. Is that a concern now? It's always been a concern, Grant said smoothly. Miss Bennet was making powerful enemies. Enemies who might think her next of kin inherited more than just her money. The threat, though hidden in nice words, hung in the air between us. Marcus wouldn't look at me now. His eyes were fixed on his expensive shoes. My son was scared. Not for me. But of what might happen if I didn't cooperate. Marcus, I said softly. We need to talk alone. Grant stepped forward. That's not a good idea. It wasn't a question, I replied. Steel entered my voice. Either you leave us to speak privately, or I call the police and report suspicious people on my property. Choice. Grant's face hardened into a mask of barely hidden anger. For a moment I thought he might refuse. Or worse. Then Marcus surprised me. Wait in the car, Thomas. His voice had an authority I'd never heard before. This is my mother. I need 15 minutes. The security man hesitated, clearly torn between his orders and the chain of command. Finally he nodded curtly. 15 minutes. Then we move forward as planned. As Grant left, Mrs. Patterson stepped into the space he'd occupied. Shall I make tea? That would be lovely, I said, grateful for her intuition. Perhaps it could take you 20 minutes. Earl Grey is in the back cabinet. Understanding showed in her eyes. She wasn't just a home helper. She was becoming a friend. Course, Miss Bennet. 20 minutes minimum for proper tea. When we were finally alone, Marcus seemed to physically shrink, the business face crumbling to show the boy I'd raised. He put his face in his hands. "You have no idea what you're involved in," he whispered. "Then tell me," I said. I kept my voice gentle despite the storm of feelings inside. Anger, disappointment, fear, all churning beneath my calm outside. "Tell me how my son became tangled up with people who would try to kill his mother." His head snapped up. "I didn't know about the accident." "I swear, Mother. Victor told me you were being watched, not hurt." "Watched," I repeated. "Because of what Aunt Margaret might have sent me." Marcus nodded miserably. "You have to understand. Sterling isn't just a company. It's an empire. Victor controls judges, regulators, politicians. When your aunt started making accusations, Victor said he'd handle it legally. I never imagined he'd resort to murder." I finished quietly. "Of an elderly woman." "Of me." Tears filled Marcus's eyes. "I'm in too deep. At first it was just connecting Victor with the right people, helping smooth regulatory problems. Then documents needed changes. Small adjustments to satisfy auditors. Fraud. I told myself it was just creative numbers," he continued, his voice hollow. "By the time I realized what was really happening, I was already trapped. If Sterling falls, I go to prison. And Rachel, does she know what you've done?" A bitter laugh escaped him. "Rachel. God, that's another nightmare. She married me thinking I was just another business guy. When she realizes what I've been part of, she'll leave. After she helps put me in prison." "You love her," I observed, seeing real pain in his face. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me," he admitted. "And I've ruined it. Along with everything else." The grandfather clock chimed softly, marking our disappearing time. Outside, Grant would be getting impatient, perhaps already thinking about his next move. "Marcus, what does Victor expect you to find here?" He ran a hand through his hair again. "A nervous habit from childhood. Aunt Margaret's documents. Victor is convinced they contain everything. Count numbers. Transaction records. Enough to destroy Sterling and everyone connected to it. Including you." Marcus nodded, misery carved into every line of his face. "If those documents become public, hundreds of people lose their jobs. Thousands lose investments. And I go to federal prison for at least 10 years. He looked up, eyes pleading. "Mother, I'm not a good person. I've made terrible choices. But I'm not a killer. I didn't know what Victor was planning for you. Or Aunt Margaret. I studied my son. The boy I'd taught to read, to ride a bike, to dance at his school formal. The man who had grown distant as he climbed business ladders. Who had taken money from my small savings without a thought. Who had dismissed my accident with cold indifference. And now, the broken figure before me, finally facing the results of years of moral compromise. What happens if you return to Victor empty-handed?" Fear flashed across his face. "Best case, I become the fall guy. Worst case, I have an unfortunate accident myself." The clock ticked steadily. Outside, Grant would be checking his watch. Mrs. Patterson was giving us as much time as she could stretch. But soon our privacy would end. I made my decision. "Listen carefully," I said. I leaned forward despite the pain in my ribs. "I do have Aunt Margaret's documents, but I won't give them to Victor." "Mother, you don't understand what he's capable of." "Better than you think," I interrupted. "But there's another way. Rachel has a plan to bring everything to the Securities Commission." Marcus went absolutely still. "Rachel, what are you talking about?" "Your wife was working with Aunt Margaret before she met you. She's a specialist in whistleblower cases." The blood drained from his face. "That's not possible. She told me herself. She wants to help you, Marcus. She believes you can still make this right." He stood up suddenly, pacing in tight circles like a trapped animal. "This whole time our entire relationship was just work. A way to get to Sterling." "No," I said firmly. "She met you before Margaret came to her firm. But now she's caught between her work obligations and her feelings for you. Anger, betrayal, and confusion battled on his face. Why should I believe any of this? For all I know, you're trying to trick me. Because I'm your mother, I said simply. And despite everything, I still love you. You have a choice now, Marcus. Help Victor continue this fraud and become even more guilty. Or work with Rachel and me to end it. His face crumpled. There's no good ending for me either way. There's doing the right thing, I said. Something your father would have expected. At the mention of his father, Marcus flinched visibly. Outside, a car door slammed. Grant's patience had run out. We're out of time, I said urgently. I need your decision now. Are you with us or with Victor? For one long moment, Marcus stood frozen in indecision. The weight of his choices visibly crushing him. The front door opened. Grant returning. And something shifted in my son's eyes. Resolution perhaps. Or resignation. I need to see these documents myself. He whispered urgently. I need to know exactly what they contain before I can decide. Not quite agreement, but not rejection either. Before I could respond, Grant appeared in the doorway. His bulk filling the frame with unspoken threat. Time's up, he announced. Mr. Sterling is expecting an update. Marcus straightened. His business mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. My mother and I have reached an understanding. She'll provide what we need. But she needs time to find everything. Grant's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Where are the documents, Mrs. Bennet? Not here, I lied smoothly. My friend Maria has them in her bank safe. A precaution after my accident. Then we'll visit this Maria together, Grant said. He stepped toward me. Calvin moved between us. That won't be necessary. My mother has agreed to get everything tomorrow. We should report back to Victor. He turned to me with fake concern. Mother, you should rest now. I'll return in the morning to handle this. The hidden message was clear. He needed time to think. To process what he'd learned about Rachel. To decide where his loyalties truly lay. I nodded, playing along. Course, dear. I'm feeling quite tired. Grant didn't move. Mr. Sterling was clear. We don't leave without the documents. And you'll have them, Marcus assured him. Once my mother has recovered enough to get them. Pushing her now will only slow things down. A tense silence stretched between them. The employee challenging the boss's son. Finally, Grant reached for his phone. I'll need to clear this with Mr. Sterling. As he stepped into the hall to make his call, Marcus leaned close to me. His voice barely a whisper. If what you're saying about Rachel is true, tell her to meet us at Riverside Park tomorrow. 10 in the morning. Southern Gazebo. He pulled back. A searching mine. I'm not promising anything. I just need to understand what I'm facing. Grant returned. His face unreadable. Mr. Sterling has agreed to your timeline, Mrs. Bennet. But he's sending additional security to watch your house overnight. For your protection. The last words dripped with fake concern. Marcus shot me a warning look. Go along with it. How thoughtful, I said. Matching Grant's false pleasantness. Though I already have my helper staying with me. Mrs. Patterson. Yes, Grant smiled thinly. We've run a check. Former military medic. Impressive background. The casual reveal that they'd investigated my helper sent a chill through me. How long had they been watching? What else did they know? After they left, Marcus with a stiff formal hug that felt like a show for Grant's benefit, Mrs. Patterson came from the kitchen, a tray in hand. I gathered they won't be staying for Earl Grey, she said dryly. No, I sank into my chair. Suddenly exhausted. But we have other problems. They're posting guards outside. She nodded, unsurprised. I noticed the second SUV arriving as they left. 2 men. East corner. You're very observant for a home helper. 20 years in military intelligence before medical training teaches you to notice things. She set the tea tray down and pulled up a chair. Now, would you like to tell me what's really going on, Professor Bennet? Because that man who just left isn't here for your health. I studied her carefully. Why should I trust you? Because Dr. Chen personally picked me from a very short list of people she trusts with her life. And because I've been watching that security man study your home's entry points like he's planning an invasion, not protection. Decision time. I needed help. Anne Maria's judgment had never failed me before. I need to make a call first, I said. When Maria confirmed that Mrs. Patterson, call me Linda, please, was indeed a former military intelligence officer who'd retrained as a medic after an injury ended her field career, I made my choice. I need to contact Rachel Jackson immediately, without anyone outside knowing. Then I need to remove something from my vanity without being seen through the windows. Linda didn't hesitate. Give me 15 minutes to create a distraction. When you hear noise outside, move quickly. She disappeared into the guest room. She came back with a small bag I hadn't seen before. From it, she pulled out what looked like emergency flares. Smoke signals, she explained. Safe but very convincing. The men outside will have to check when they seem to come from your garage. While she prepared, I called Rachel using the prepaid phone. I told her about Marcus's message about Riverside Park. Did he agree to help us? Rachel asked, hope clear in her voice. Not directly. But he's willing to listen. He knows about your connection to Aunt Margaret now. Sharp breath. How did he react? Confused. Betrayed. Hesitated. He loves you, Rachel. That much is real. She was quiet for a moment. I never meant to fall for him, she finally said. It made everything harder. Love usually does, I said. I glanced toward the window where Linda was watching our unwanted guards. Can you bring securities commission people to the meeting tomorrow? Someone who can offer Marcus a deal for testimony against Victor. Possibly. But Rose, you need to understand something. The documents you have aren't just proof of financial fraud. They also have evidence of bribes, blackmail, even connections to organized crime. Victor Sterling isn't just facing fines. He's facing decades in federal prison. People like that don't go quietly. Linda signaled me. 1 minute until distraction. I understand the danger, I said quickly. But right now, I need to secure those documents and survive the night. Tomorrow at 10. Riverside Park. Seconds after hanging up, smoke started billowing from the side of my house. Linda nodded sharply. I moved as quickly as my hurt body would allow. I got Uncle Margaret's package from the vanity compartment. By the time I returned to the living room, Linda was watching through the blinds as both security men left their vehicle to check the smoke. We have maybe 3 minutes, she said. Where do you want to hide it? Not here, I decided. They'll search the house the moment we leave tomorrow. We need to get it out now. Linda looked at the package quickly. How valuable? $23 million and multiple federal cases. She nodded once. Her military efficiency taking over. The drainage pipe behind your property connects to the main system. I noticed it earlier when checking around. We can use that. I can barely walk, let alone crawl through drainage pipes, I reminded her. You won't have to. She went to the kitchen. She came back with a large waterproof freezer bag. The documents go in here. I'll make the drop while you create a second distraction. As she carefully sealed the package, I realized what she was suggesting. You're leaving me alone with them outside. Only briefly. Those men are focused on stopping you from leaving, not following me. I'll go out through your bathroom window, make the drop, and return before they realize I was gone. She handed me a cell phone. If anything happens, call this number. Connects directly to Dr. Chan and emergency services at the same time. The security men would return soon. Their patience for smoke tricks limited. Who should we send the documents to? Rachel. Linda shook her head. Too risky. If they're watching your son, they're watching his wife. She thought for a moment. Dr. Chan has a nephew on the police force. Detective. Organized crime division. The package goes to him. I wrote Maria's nephew's name and badge number on the waterproof bag. Along with a brief note explaining the contents were evidence of financial crimes connected to my recent accident. As Linda prepared to leave, I grabbed her wrist. Thank you, I said simply. For believing me. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. In my experience, literature professors rarely make up corporate conspiracies. She glanced out the window. The men are coming back. Make noise in the front rooms. Act annoyed about the smoke. I'll be back within 20 minutes. After she slipped away, I shuffled to the front door. I called out irritably about faulty wiring and old garages. For anyone listening, through the window I could see the security men back in position, now more alert than before. One spoke into his radio, reporting the incident to someone higher up, I assumed. The minutes crawled by painfully slowly. I made a show of checking smoke damage, moving between windows where I could be seen, keeping up the act that both Linda and I were focused on household problems. 18 minutes later, I was counting every second. Linda reappeared in the hall as silently as she'd vanished. Package delivered to the meeting point, she reported quietly. Dr. Chen's nephew will get it within the hour. And now we prepare for tomorrow. She closed the curtains. They'll expect you to leave the house to get the documents from your friend's bank. We need to make that look real. We spent the next hour building a believable story. Phone calls to Maria on speaker, loud enough to be heard. Arranging to meet at her bank tomorrow morning. Linda checked the surveillance outside regularly, noting when shifts changed, identifying blind spots in their coverage. As night fell, an unexpected text arrived on my burner phone. Changed situation. Victor knows about me. Had to leave home. Staying at Harbor Inn under my maiden name. Still meeting tomorrow. Brought someone who can help Marcus. Rachel's been exposed, I told Linda. Victor knows she was working with Aunt Margaret. Linda's face tightened. This significantly increases the risk for tomorrow. If Sterling is desperate enough to expose his inside source, he's preparing to get rid of all loose ends, my son included. She didn't answer directly, which was answer enough. Get some rest, she said instead. I'll take first watch. Sleep was impossible despite my exhaustion and pain medicine. Around midnight, the security lights in my backyard suddenly came on. Linda appeared at my bedroom door. Someone's testing the edges, she whispered. Stay down. She disappeared into the darkness of the hall. Minutes later, she returned. False alarm. Raccoon triggered the motion sensors. But something in her face suggested it wasn't quite that simple. What aren't you telling me? She hesitated, then sat on the edge of my bed. There are now 4 men outside. Not 2. And they're armed with more than standard security equipment. They're preparing to take me by force, I realized. Possibly. Or they're expecting trouble tomorrow and increasing security. He checked her watch. Either way, we need to change our plan. I've contacted Dr. Chen. She'll meet us at Riverside Park directly instead of at her bank. And the documents. Already with her nephew. He's arranging protection for you after tomorrow's meeting. The meaning settled heavily between us. After tomorrow, I might never return to this house. This life. Everything would change forever. Will my son go to prison? Asked softly. Linda's professional distance softened for a moment. That depends on what he chooses to do tomorrow. And how valuable his testimony is against Sterling. As she left to continue her watch, I found myself staring at the ceiling, thinking of Marcus as a child, his fierce focus when building with blocks, his endless curiosity, his absolute belief that his mother could fix any problem. Somewhere along the way, that boy had become a man who thought money and status were worth giving up everything else. Tomorrow would decide whether anything of that boy remained, whether he would choose to make things right, or continue his fall into Victor Sterling's corrupt world. Either way, the mother in me would grieve for what had been lost. Dawn arrived with steady drizzle that beaded on window panes and turned my garden into a shimmering picture. Linda helped me dress in layers. Practical clothes that would allow movement despite my injuries. Each motion sent pain through my healing ribs. But today, physical pain seemed small compared to what lay ahead. Victor called Marcus at 5:17 this morning, Linda reported. He checked her phone. Dr. Chen has a contact at the phone company. The call lasted 6 minutes. Can we know what was said? She shook her head. Only that it happened. Marcus then made 2 calls. One to Rachel's regular phone, which wasn't answered, and one to a burner number, likely hers. I absorbed this information while Linda braided my hair, a style I hadn't worn in decades, but which she insisted was more practical for today. The suggestion that I might need to move quickly hung unspoken between us. The security detail is preparing to follow us, she continued. She glanced through the bathroom blinds. They're not even trying to hide anymore. They think we're going to Maria's bank to get documents, I reminded her. They'll expect that. Which gives us about 30 minutes of confusion when we go to the park instead. She handed me a pill and water. Anti-inflammatory, not pain medicine. You need to be sharp. At exactly 9:15, we left in Linda's plain sedan. The black SUVs pulled away from the curb before we'd reached the end of my street. 2 vehicles. 4 men tracking us without hiding. They're keeping distance but watching all turns, Linda observed. Driving with the exact skill of someone who had probably experienced far more dangerous situations than this. Exactly as expected. And Maria, already at Riverside Park with her nephew. They've secured the southern gazebo. Have plainclothes officers nearby. She made a deliberately wrong turn, heading toward Maria's bank as our surveillance would expect. Rachel arrived at the park 10 minutes ago. No sign of Marcus yet. My heart squeezed at the mention of my son. Had Victor's early morning call changed his willingness to meet? Was he right now revealing our plans to his corrupt boss? There's something you should prepare yourself for, Linda said, her voice getting softer. Your son may not come. Or worse, he may come with Sterling's people. He'll be there, I said with more confidence than I felt. Whatever he's become, he's still my son. I have to believe there's a line he won't cross. Linda didn't argue, but her silence spoke volumes. As we got close to the bank area, she suddenly turned onto a side street, accelerating through a yellow light that our followers couldn't make. By the time they redirected, we had switched roads twice. We were heading toward Riverside Park from an unexpected direction. They'll figure it out quickly, Linda warned. We have maybe 10 minutes advantage. The park appeared before us. Morning mist still hanging on the tree line along the river. Linda parked in the northwest lot, the one farthest from where we were going. We walk from here, she said. She helped me from the car. Stay close to the trees where the sight lines are broken. With Linda supporting much of my weight, we moved through the damp parkland, following service paths instead of main walkways. The gazebo appeared through the mist. An elegant structure sitting on a small hill overlooking the river. Maria stood beneath its white-painted dome. Next to her was a serious-looking man in his 40s who could only be her nephew, Detective Ramirez. No sign of Marcus or Rachel. They're 5 minutes behind us, Maria reported as we climbed the gazebo steps. Rachel's inside that coffee shop across the street watching. She says Marcus texted that he's coming alone. But she can't confirm. Detective Ramirez stepped forward. Mrs. Bennett, we've reviewed the documents you provided. If even half of what's in there is accurate, Victor Sterling is looking at multiple federal charges. Securities fraud, wire fraud, bribery of public officials, tax evasion, possibly even racketeering. And my son. The detective's face softened slightly. Depending on his level of involvement and willingness to cooperate, anything from probation to 15 years. The U.S. attorney is prepared to offer a deal, but only if he provides testimony against Sterling. A slim figure emerged from the coffee shop across the street. Rachel, wearing a baseball cap and oversized jacket that couldn't quite hide her graceful bearing. She jogged toward the gazebo, constantly scanning her surroundings. Marcus is coming, she announced, slightly breathless. But something's wrong. He insisted on driving himself, refused to tell me his route, and sounded strange. Strange how? Yes. Like he was choosing his words carefully, like someone might be listening. She turned to Detective Ramirez. How quickly can you get more officers here? They're already in position, he assured her. 4 plainclothes throughout the park. SWAT on standby 3 blocks away. Linda, who had been watching the park entrances, suddenly stiffened. Vehicle approaching. Black SUV. Southeastern entrance. Our followers had caught up sooner than expected. And another, Maria reported. She pointed toward the northern road. Coming fast. Rachel pulled out her phone. Marcus isn't answering. I think she never finished the sentence. A third vehicle entered from the west. Marcus's silver car. Moving at exactly the speed limit. Turning with mechanical precision into the nearest parking area. As it stopped, 4 black SUVs moved in from different directions. Boxing it in. It's a trap, Linda stated flatly. They used him as bait. The driver's door of Marcus's car opened. My son emerged. His face showing resignation and despair. Victor Sterling stepped out from one of the SUVs. He placed a fatherly hand on Marcus's shoulder. Even from this distance, I could see the cold victory in the older man's posture. They have my son, I whispered. Detective Ramirez was already speaking rapidly into his radio, calling in his officers. Julie had gone deathly pale. Her eyes locked on Marcus's distant figure. I need to go to him, I said. I took a step forward. Linda caught my arm. That's exactly what Sterling wants. He's using Marcus to draw you out. I don't care, I replied. I gently but firmly removed her hand. He's my son. As I stepped away from the gazebo's shelter, Maria grabbed my other arm. Gazebos don't. Too dangerous. I faced dangerous people before, I said. Thinking of teaching politics that had once threatened my career. Of my battle with cancer. Of raising a son alone after his father died. None compared to this moment. But the rules stayed the same. Fear couldn't be allowed to control my choices. At least let me come with you, Rachel begged. She moved to my side. Detective Ramirez spoke quickly into his radio before addressing us. Mrs. Bennett, Ms. Kim, if you insist on approaching, my officers will cover you. But I strongly suggest waiting until SWAT arrives. Every minute we wait gives Victor more control over my son, I replied. You have the documents. Do what you need to do with them. But I'm going to Marcus now. Linda assessed the situation with professional eyes. They've put men at all park exits. They don't plan for anyone to leave until they have what they want. Which is the documents, certainly. But also loose ends eliminated. Her eyes met mine directly. Rachel. Possibly even Marcus at this point. He nodded, understanding the stakes with perfect clarity. Then we don't give them time to do whatever they've planned. Without waiting for more discussion, I began walking toward my son, Rachel beside me. Behind us, I heard Detective Ramirez coordinating with his team, Maria arguing for more immediate action, Linda offering tactical advice. But my focus had narrowed to Marcus's distant figure, standing rigidly beside Victor Sterling, like a hostage at an execution. As we got closer, I could see Victor more clearly. A tall, distinguished man in his 60s, with silver hair and the confident posture of someone used to power. His hand stayed on Marcus's shoulder, what might look friendly to strangers, but which I saw instantly as control. Mother, stop, Marcus called when we were about 20 yards away. Go back. Victor smiled thinly. Mrs. Bennett at last. And Ms. Kim. How convenient to have both of you join us. Grant and 2 other security men moved to surround us, cutting off escape. Rachel tensed beside me. But I kept my steady pace until we stood just feet from Calvin and Victor. Let go of my son, I said quietly. Your son works for me, Victor replied. His tone pleasant but threaded with steel, and has been exceptionally valuable, if occasionally confused in his loyalties. Marcus wouldn't look at me. His face was pale, jaw clenched with what might have been fear or anger, or both. We have a simple exchange to propose, Victor continued. You turn over all copies of Margaret Bennett's documents, sign a complete non-disclosure agreement, and everyone walks away whole. You keep your inheritance. Marcus keeps his career. Ms. Kim keeps her law license. And if I decline? Yes. Though we all knew the answer. Victor's smile didn't waver. Then things become unnecessarily complicated. Your accident showed how dangerous the world can be for a woman your age. Rachel stepped forward, her professional side coming out. Those documents are already with federal authorities, Mr. Sterling. Securities fraud, wire fraud, bribery. The evidence is complete. Something dangerous flashed in Victor's eyes. Then there's no reason not to give me your copies too, is there? Unless you're bluffing. I don't bluff, I said. And neither did my aunt. Victor's hand tightened on Marcus's shoulder. Your aunt was a confused old woman with a grudge. And unfortunately, mental problems seem to run in your family. First Margaret with her paranoid conspiracy theories. Now you with your tragic accident and resulting confusion. The suggested threat was clear. If I wouldn't cooperate, he would discredit me. Maybe have me declared incompetent. Or worse. Marcus, I said, ignoring Victor to address my son directly. You have a choice to make right now. My son finally looked at me. His face tormented. It's not that simple, Mother. It is, Rachel said. Her voice gentle but firm. Marcus, I've seen the evidence. This isn't just creative accounting. People have been hurt. Investors who lost everything. Employees whose retirement disappeared. Real people with real lives. People fail in business, Victor said coldly. The weak are separated from the strong. It's natural law. There's nothing natural about fraud, I replied. Or attempted murder. Marcus flinched visibly at the word murder. His eyes darted to Victor, then back to me. Something new in his expression. I had nothing to do with your accident, Victor said smoothly. An overzealous security action. Completely unauthorized. Like the men watching my house. Like the 4 SUVs currently blocking the park exits. I gestured around us. This doesn't look like a business meeting, Victor. It looks like a criminal operation cornered by authorities. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Victor's features. His eyes swept the park. Noticing maybe for the first time the casual joggers who moved with too much purpose. The maintenance workers who paid too much attention to our confrontation. Marcus, Victor said sharply. It's time to show your loyalty. Tell your mother and your wife to cooperate. Or face the consequences. My son stood motionless. Caught between the mentor who had shaped his professional identity and the mother who had raised him. The wife who had loved him despite knowing his flaws. What would Dad say if he could see you now? I asked softly, calling up the memory of the man who had taught Marcus to ride a bike. To stand up to bullies. To do what was right even when it was hard. Something broke in Marcus's expression. The business mask cracking to reveal the boy I had raised. The man he might yet become. I can't do this anymore, he whispered. Then louder. Can't do this. He stepped away from Victor's grip. It's over. I'm done. Victor's face transformed. The friendly mentor vanishing instantly to reveal something cold and reptilian. You ungrateful little parasite. He hissed at Marcus. Made you. Everything you have, everything you are, it came from me. Not everything, Marcus replied. His voice steadier now. He moved to stand beside Rachel and me. Physically crossing the divide. My conscience came from my parents. Grant took a step forward. His hand moving beneath his jacket toward what I could only assume was a hidden weapon. The other security men spread out, creating a circle around us. This is your last chance, Victor said. His composure breaking further. Return the documents, sign the agreements, and perhaps I'll consider giving your son a future outside prison walls. It's too late for threats, Rachel said. Look around you, Victor. Throughout the park, the fake visitors had stopped pretending. The jogger by the fountain now held a police badge. The maintenance workers had positioned themselves behind Victor's security team. Detective Ramirez approached from the gazebo, flanked by uniformed officers. Victor's eyes moved from side to side, calculating odds, potential escapes. This changes nothing. I have connections your little police detective couldn't begin to understand. Judges, congressmen, regulatory officials, all in my pocket. That's why we went federal, Maria said. She joined us with Linda at her side. Your local connections can't help you with the Securities Commission or the FBI. As if on cue, a line of black vehicles with federal markings swept into the park, blocking the remaining exits. Men and women in windbreakers marked FBI poured out. Moving with coordinated precision, Grant reached for his weapon. But Linda moved with shocking speed for a woman her age. Her hand shot out to grab his wrist in what must have been a painful hold. "I wouldn't," she said calmly. As Grant's knees buckled. 20 years of military intelligence teaches you where the nerve points are. Detective Ramirez stepped forward. Badge extended. "Victor Sterling, you're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent." The careful recitation of rights seemed to finally penetrate Victor's armor of power. His shoulders slumped infinitely. Not surrender, but recognition that this battle at least was lost. As federal agents secured the scene, handcuffing Victor and his security team, Marcus turned to me. His eyes held a mix of shame, regret, and something I hadn't seen in years. The vulnerability of my son seeking his mother's approval. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "For everything." "I know," I replied. I reached for his hand. "What happens now?" Rachel stepped closer. Her professional face softened by clear relief. "Marcus has agreed to testify against Victor and the entire Sterling operation. In exchange, the U.S. attorney is offering a reduced sentence." Reduced. Yes. Needing to understand exactly what my son faced. 18 months in a minimum security facility, Marcus answered before Rachel could. Followed by 3 years of supervised release. The numbers hit me like physical blows. 18 months. My son would spend a year and a half in prison. Yet considering the alternative, the decades behind bars he might have faced without cooperating, it represented mercy. When my voice cracked on the single word. After the trial, Rachel explained gently. Which could take a year to begin. Marcus will remain under house arrest until then. Detective Ramirez approached, nodding respectfully to me before addressing Marcus. "Mr. Jackson, the federal agents need to take your preliminary statement now." Marcus squeezed my hand once before releasing it. "I need to do this," he said. More to himself than to me. Then, with straightened shoulders, he walked toward the waiting federal agents. "He'll be okay," Rachel assured me. Watching him go. "The prosecutor said his cooperation is extraordinarily valuable. They'll honor the agreement." He nodded, unable to speak past the knot in my throat. Victory and loss had become so tangled I couldn't separate them. Linda appeared at my side with a wheelchair. "You should sit, Miss Bennett. Your body has been through enough trauma today." As I sank gratefully into the chair, Maria tucked a blanket around my legs against the morning chill. "It's over, Rose," she said softly. "You did it. Margaret would be proud." I watched as Victor was led to a waiting vehicle. His commanding presence at odds with the handcuffs binding his wrists. Our eyes met briefly across the distance. In his gaze I saw not defeat, but a cold promise of revenge. A man calculating future moves even as his current game collapsed around him. "It's not over," I murmured. "Not completely." Rachel followed my gaze and nodded grimly. "Men like Victor Sterling don't surrender easily. But he's facing multiple federal charges with overwhelming evidence and cooperative witnesses. Even his connections can't make this disappear." As we made our way back toward the parking area, I glanced at the gazebo where everything had reached its peak. In just 10 days my life had transformed completely. Inheritance, accident, betrayal, and now this fragile resolution. "What will you do?" Maria asked as Linda helped me into the car. "After the trial, I mean." I considered the question, watching through the window as Marcus spoke with federal agents, Rachel at his side. My son's future would include prison, public disgrace, professional ruin. And yet he stood straighter now than he had beside Victor. As if the weight of lies had been heavier than the burden of consequences would be. "I'll use Aunt Margaret's money the way she would have wanted," I said finally. A foundation for education and ethics in business. Something good should come from all this. And Marcus? Maria asked gently. I thought of my son as a child. Determined, brilliant, compassionate, before the world taught him to value other things. That boy was still there beneath the layers of compromise and ambition. He'll need to rebuild, I said. And I'll be there to help him. That's what mothers do. As we drove away from Riverside Park, leaving federal agents to process the scene, I felt a strange lightness. Despite my injuries, despite the challenges ahead, the truth, however painful, had finally emerged into the light. And in that light, healing could begin. For Marcus. For Rachel. For me. Aunt Margaret had trusted me with her legacy, knowing it would shatter lives. But perhaps in that shattering, something stronger might eventually emerge. The rain had stopped, and through the breaking clouds, the first rays of morning sun touched the river, turning it gold.